Truckers are the backbone of our economy, but they're in fear for their future. You might be wondering what the real problem is. The freight market has collapsed, and truckers are facing lower wages, fewer hours, and even job losses. So, what can be done to help truckers? There was a time in the 1970s and 80s that the trucking industry was booming. There was a high demand for goods and services, and truckers were in high demand. This led to high wages and good working conditions for truckers. However, the trucking industry has changed a lot since then. The demand for goods and services has leveled off, and the number of truckers has increased. This has led to lower wages and worse working conditions for truckers. The collapse of the freight market. The freight market is a marketplace where buyers and sellers of freight transportation services come together to strike a deal. In the world of transportation, the freight market serves as the backbone of global trade, facilitating the movement of goods across vast distances. However, a seismic event known as the freight market collapse has sent shockwaves throughout the industry, leaving truckers, the unsung heroes of the road, grappling with unprecedented challenges. The collapse of the freight market is due to a number of factors, including the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and rising inflation. The COVID-19 pandemic had a significant impact on the freight market. As businesses closed and people stayed home, demand for freight decreased. This led to lower prices for truckers and fewer hours worked. The war in Ukraine has also had a negative impact on the freight market. Sanctions against Russia have disrupted supply chains, and the war has led to higher fuel prices. This has made it more expensive for truckers to operate and has also led to delays in deliveries. Inflation is also a major factor in the collapse of the freight market. As the cost of goods and services rises, businesses are less likely to order new products. This leads to less demand for freight, which in turn leads to lower prices for truckers. The collapse of the freight market can even be attributed in part to the steadily growing overcapacity of trucks. In the race to capitalize on lucrative opportunities, trucking companies expanded their fleets, flooding the market with an excess supply of vehicles. This oversaturation has led to intense competition and an inevitable drop in freight rates. Truckers, once able to secure profitable loads, now find themselves engaged in fierce bidding wars, driving prices down to unsustainable levels. The advent of digital platforms in the logistics industry has further exacerbated the challenges faced by truckers. Online marketplaces and freight matching applications have disrupted the traditional broker-trucker relationship, enabling shippers to connect directly with carriers. While these platforms offer convenience and transparency, they have also increased competition by providing access to a wider pool of trucking companies, intensifying the downward pressure on rates. As a result, truckers have witnessed diminishing profit margins and increased difficulties in securing consistent work. In addition to these factors, there are a number of factors that have contributed to the collapse of the freight market. The trucking industry is facing a shortage of truck drivers, which is making it difficult for businesses to get the goods they need. This is putting additional pressure on truckers, who are already facing lower wages and fewer hours. Fuel prices have been rising in recent months, which makes it more expensive for truckers to operate. This is also leading to higher prices for consumers as businesses pass on the costs of fuel to their customers. The government has been imposing stricter regulations on the trucking industry in recent years. These regulations are designed to improve safety, but they're also making it more difficult for truckers to operate. The collapse of the freight market is a serious problem, but it is not insurmountable. We think it's necessary to go through the previous pages of the freight market. It has faced problems in previous times too. The 2008 financial crisis also led to a collapse in the freight market. As businesses closed and people lost their jobs, demand for freight decreased. This led to lower prices for truckers and fewer working hours. The 2019 freight recession was another example of a collapse in the freight market. This recession was caused by a number of factors, including the implementation of electronic logging devices, which led to fewer hours available for truckers, and the trade war between the United States and China, which disrupted supply chains. In fact, the freight market is cyclical, meaning that it goes through periods of boom and bust. This is due to a number of factors, including the state of the economy, the demand for goods and services, and the cost of fuel. How are the truckers affected? Truckers find themselves in a relentless battle for survival amidst the ruins of the freight market. Intense competition, driven by an oversupply of trucks, has unleashed a race to the bottom in terms of pricing. Truckers, once able to secure profitable contracts, are now forced into cutthroat bidding wars that erode their earnings to mere fractions of what they once were. See for yourself the major hurdles in front of them. Lower wages. The demand for freight has decreased, which means that there is less work for truckers. Hence, truckers are facing lower wages as the demand for freight has decreased. In some cases, truckers are seeing their wages cut by as much as 20%. "I'm scared for my future," said John Smith, a trucker who's been driving for 20 years. "I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet if I keep losing money." This is scary for even us to listen to. Fewer hours. Businesses are shipping less freight, which means that truckers are not needed as much. This has led to many truckers being laid off or having their hours reduced. Job losses. Some truckers are even losing their jobs altogether as businesses cut back on their transportation costs. This is especially true for independent truckers, who do not have the same protection as employees. Increased stress. The collapse of the freight market is causing increased stress for truckers. They're worried about their future and how they'll be able to make a living. This stress can lead to health problems such as anxiety and depression. Decreased safety. As these truckers are forced to work longer hours and drive more miles, they are likely to make mistakes that could lead to accidents. This is especially true for truckers who are sleep deprived. These are just some of the ways that the collapse of the freight market is impacting truckers. It is a serious problem that needs to be addressed. By supporting the initiatives mentioned above, we can help ensure that truckers can continue to do their important work. It's not like nothing can be done to help them. There are, in fact, many remedies too. Let's look through them. Government subsidiaries. The government can provide subsidies to help truckers make ends meet. This could include things like tax breaks, fuel discounts, and loan forgiveness. This would help ensure that truckers can continue to do their important work and provide for their families. Increased demand for freight. Businesses can increase their demand for freight by ordering more goods and services. This would help to create more jobs for truckers and increase their wages. This would also help to ensure that the trucking industry remains strong and that the economy as a whole benefits. Better working conditions. Truckers need better working conditions. This includes things like shorter hours, more pay, and safer roads. The government can pass regulations that would improve working conditions for truckers. Businesses can also make changes to their policies and practices to make it easier for truckers to have a healthy work-life balance. Support truckers' unions. Truckers' unions are fighting for better conditions and wages for their members. We can support these unions by donating to them or by joining them. This would help to ensure that truckers have a strong voice in the fight for better working conditions. Educate the public about the importance of truckers. Many people don't realize how important truckers are to the economy. We can educate the public about the importance of truckers by writing letters to the editor, talking to our friends and family, and sharing information on social media. This would help to raise awareness of the challenges that truckers are facing and the need to support them. The United States Department of Transport has provided $750 million in grants to help truckers cover their fuel costs. The DOT has also waived hours of service regulations for truckers transporting essential goods during the COVID-19 pandemic. And also, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has increased inspections of trucking companies to ensure that they are complying with safety regulations. Last but not least, the FMCSA has also launched a new program to help truckers find jobs. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has launched a new program called the Drive Safe Apprenticeship Pilot Program. The SDAP is a 3-year program that allows certain 18, 19 and 20-year-old drivers to operate commercial motor vehicles in interstate commerce. The program is designed to help young drivers get their start in the trucking industry and to address the shortage of truck drivers in the United States. Guys, this is a crisis that we cannot afford to ignore. Truckers need our help. The future of the freight market is uncertain, but we can help make a difference. Let's stand up for the truckers and help them get back on their feet. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and also let us know your thoughts on the subject in the comment section down below. We'll see you again with yet another amazing and relevant video. Until next time, goodbye.